Ignite, sparked by BBB, where conversations are taking place to change the future.
All right, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm not quite awake yet, so you guys have to be more awake than I am. Okay, great. All right, so just some ground rules. Those of you that have been here before, you know what they are. For those that have not been here before, please be respectful. We do ask questions prior to the experts coming up to talk about what their expertise is. Those questions, everyone will get a chance to answer. If you don't want to pass, that's fine as well. But again, please be respectful and be respectful of people's time. So everybody has 60 seconds to respond to the question. If you pass that 60 seconds, you're going to hear. Not that song.
That's nice folk music.
Perfect. Better than the buzzard. Everybody didn't like that. The other thing is, if you would like to have a conversation, you're more than welcome to. So these questions are just baselines to help everybody get their juices flowing and kind of really understand the topic at hand. All right. But I am going to cut you off at 60 seconds. Not because I don't want to hear what you have to say or be rude, but because we have to be careful of the time. All right. That being said, our first topic for this morning is going to be on mentorship. And we're going to double up on mentorship today. So I will be talking about it from the mentee perspective later, and then Barry's going to be talking about it from the mentor perspective. And he'll be doing that now in the morning. But we're going to ask the questions now in the morning, keep you guys awake and motivated. So starting off, how can mentorship programs specifically help underserved populations overcome barriers to education and career opportunities? This is actually great because you guys get to experience how comfortable I am with silence. I actually don't mind sitting in silence. Olga?
Well, I think that if a young fellow, or especially fellows, boys need, and a lot of them don't have a father figure in the house, so they have a father figure, you know what I mean, that tells them that they can do a lot of things, that they have the potential, that they just need some discipline to achieve things, that will open their horizon. I don't think we are in the land of opportunities, but a lot of American people don't know that. Only the foreigners know. So we need to let the American know you are in the land of opportunity. Go and grab them.
Say that one more time.
That we are in the land of opportunity, but most of Americans don't know that. Only the foreigners know because they come here. So the American people need to know you are in the land of opportunity. Go and grab them.
A lot of times when it comes to the lack of leadership, it's due, the result ends up being no boundaries, poor philosophy. And we believe that philosophy is the foundation, the backbone to materialize desired outcomes. So mentorship, leadership, someone who's grounded with a balanced way of thinking, a balanced viewpoint of life, would be able to help others with developing philosophical ideas so that they can use their mind to put the body into action to make things happen.
Perfect. And based off of that, what are some programs and groups that you can think of that obtain those values or have that goal? Think big brother, big sister. What does that relate to? Having a family. If you don't have the family unit, you find it in other peer groups. What are some other examples?
I think partnerships with different businesses and, like, for example, Virginia Credit Union partners with a group at VCU called Developing Men of Color, where every year we have a dinner and we kind of just talk to the students that are there and share what our career experience was, our journey. I think one thing about mentorship is that it gives the opportunity for someone to see maybe an alternative career path. Like, we all may have went to school for something specific. I went to school for art. Am I working in art? No, but was I able to kind of convert my degree into something a little bit more unconventional and creative? Maybe that's something that they may not be able to see, just by taking classes, just by going to school every day. But like with that relationship and that partnership, you know, we were able to open up the eyes of many students to different career paths within the credit union. Because when you think of a financial institution, you think of banking, you think of money, but we have IT, we have marketing, we have creative. So I think that's why it's important to develop those relationships as well.
And when you think, oh, go ahead.
As a junior achievement is another one that's been around a long time, and Rotary, all Rotary clubs go into local schools all over the country and the world and work with students and mentor.
The county usually has organizations within the educational system itself where you go into the high schools, you go into the junior highs, and you talk. And what I found is a lot of folks who've been successful in business didn't necessarily take the path that you would think. It's really creativity, enthusiasm, and passion. And one of the things that you can do when you do go into a high school group like that is when they can see somebody who's been successful and has it, it can instill in passion, instill excitement. And that's the first hurdle to get there over that.
That's a great example. And then another one that I haven't heard mentioned yet is work-based learning through schools is really important. If I didn't grow up working in my dad's restaurant, he would have insisted that I go to work for someone else, just so I can learn some key business ethics and values. So when you think of a mentor, what are some great characteristics that you can think of? What's a mentor to you? Patient person.
Positive person, someone that's upbeat and someone has the ability to ask questions, then listen. Shouldn't be a lecture, should be asking questions, understanding where the mentee is coming from, and then asking them questions to help them guide on the journey where they want to be.
Able to interpret well. I think that when you first come into a mentorship, you may not understand the business language or what ultimately is the objective. And so having someone who's able to bring that to the level of the person that's mentoring.
I have to agree, communication is a big one, especially understanding the type of communication that the mentee would understand.
Someone that's open and honest, but in a giving constructive feedback, but in a positive way.
And y'all are positive. When my dad would give me constructive criticism, it was like, "Hey, sir."
And meet people where they are. Sometimes intellectual skill set may not be at a place that's more advantageous, but meeting where they are, helping grow, helping build and those, developing those skill sets.
Program mix it up. So beyond just like kids in school, and Chesterfield has a program shadowing where they take students and put them with people in the workplace. But thinking back in the jobs where I did the best, it was because whether it was an internship or whether it was my job actually working, they hook you up with somebody that's been there, done that. They've already made the mistakes. They share what held them back to give you that advancement so that you aren't held back in the same way. May not know everything, but it does help tremendously. So even starting off in a job, you know, I think some of the best businesses we have take people, pair them up with somebody who's been there, done that. You know, my favorite line for everyone is you don't know what you don't know. And until somebody presents you with something, everything's new.
I can attest to that. Somebody that admits the wrongs that they've done and they tell you why it was wrong and how to avoid doing it It's better to learn making your own mistakes and learn from those than making the same mistakes and having to learn from them all over again.
Barry's always correcting me.
Barry's always correcting me too.
Yeah, Joe too.
So in what ways can mentorship strengthen local networks and create a ripple effect into positive change for the community?
I think one of the challenges that a lot of younger people that are just starting out, they don't understand the importance of networking, how valuable it is. And they're not quite sure why they should do it. They've never had to do it. And I think that with, proper mentor and mentee relationship, it's good for the mentor to invite them to certain events so that they can see how the business community is interacting, what they're doing. And it also helps prepare the future workforce. It gets them ready to contribute. They have sort of a leg up when they're going to enter the workforce.
Yes.
We started talking about underserved populations. I was thinking about the application of underserved populations, and I totally agree. A lot of times that would introduce them to networks and opportunities that they would not have been introduced to before. But the ripple that affects is a lot of people in underserved populations tend to make excuses of why they are underserved or why these opportunities aren't afforded to them. What changes that trajectory, changes that viewpoint and perspective, because now these opportunities are available because they're being introduced, and you're bringing other people and telling them about these new opportunities, and that creates probably a vision across that whole community of we can now do this, or we have this opportunity.
I have to agree. Part of what makes a mentorship successful is the mentee has to have the motivation to want to accept that mentorship. You have to want to find that change or believe that that mentor believes in you, you can do what they think you can do. Maybe not right now, but the more that you learn, the more you gather those skill sets, you eventually can do it.
So I've done a lot of mentoring in the past. In the very first meeting, we would set it up. Now, these were generally college students, but I would tell them the mentorship program would be going, say, from September to March, April. And there were juniors or seniors in college. And I would say, here's the very first meeting. I'll meet with you every 2 weeks. I will help you. I will support you, but I am never going to send you a meeting invite. If you don't reach out to me and set up the meeting, then we won't meet. So I want them to take ownership. If I'm going to give my time, I have to take the ownership, set up the meeting, be prepared, and come to the meeting.
It's kind of like when you say, well, I didn't know that. Well, your boss wouldn't have known you didn't know that if you didn't ask the question on how to do something. It's okay to admit that you don't know how to do something. It's better to ask, learn it, and if you make a mistake, do better next time. What are some challenges that the mentor tends to face sometimes?
I think it's common addressed it. Sometimes you have individuals that don't know how to take advantage of that mentor-mentee relationship. And it's funny when you were saying you make them set the appointment. I have a buddy that was into bodybuilding, was really successful, won trophies, all. And so high school, I said, hey, will you train me? He said, give me $200 and I'll train you. I'm like, we're best friend. What do you mean? He said, people tend to stick with it if they have money invested. So that just stuck with me throughout life. You know, when you give somebody something for free or you show interest in somebody for free, a lot of times people take it for granted. They might miss meetings, they might miss opportunities or what have you. But when you can show that they have some skin in the game, then they are a lot more tied to the result or reaching the goal. So I think with that, that's one of the challenges is getting mentees to buy in to the overall goal. And I think that's why you have such a culture pushing towards coaches now, rather than the mentee-mentor relationship. It's similar, but I'm paying now somebody for their time in coaching, and now I'm vested into reaching my goal, and then they're vested in helping me hit it. It's kind of like a
60 coaching, nice timing by the way.
try.
Coaching, consulting. there's also that aspect sometimes for the mentor to feel a sense of failure because they weren't able to be successful in that relationship with the mentee. So what are some ways to avoid that sense of failure for the mentor?
So I mean, at the beginning of any relationship like that, you set the goals. And then people talking about opportunities, but it's also about possibilities. So if somebody sees what they want to aspire to, you know, you got something to shoot for and mimic and, you know, try to get better than.
Just to add to his comment, set boundaries, set boundaries and, count.
Mitigating expectation. So I think sometimes we set ourselves up with such an expectation where when something doesn't go the way that we envisioned, we're disappointed. So I've kind of always lived with a philosophy of not having an expectation. Now there's a level of minimum expectation, but if you don't go in expecting anything, you're not leaving yourself up to be disappointed by it.
It's kind of like when you decide I'm going to play the violin and you've never played the violin before, and you think 2 weeks later you're going to play in a grand orchestra. Not quite, but at least you're trying.
Personal experience?
Well, high school a little bit, but.
A little personal over here.
Also in mind with the goal setting is having the goals being appropriate for the time period for which you're mentoring. Sometimes things are open-ended. And so creating that time period for which you're together, what you're gonna accomplish.
I have to agree, having specific times is really important, and saying, oh, we'll meet up sometime, just message me. We'll go have coffee and talk about this. Chances are 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month's gonna go by and you'll never have met up, never have that conversation. All right, how can business integrate mentorship into their culture to foster leadership development and increase employee retention?
One thing that we did that I think was helpful, all employees were required to take their Clifton strengths. So if you're not familiar with that is, if everyone has them, it's just the order in which you present your strong abilities. So one, you kind of learn what you're good at naturally, and then you have an assessment of like what your strengths are in comparison to your team. But we also offer like strength coaching. So you were paired with someone that looked at what your strengths are and how to bring out those natural abilities that you have in different projects that you're working on, in your communication. So I did the strength training, and, you know, I think my coach or my mentor was fantastic and was able to show me a different perspective of like why I think the way I think and how to use that to the best of my ability. So when you have something internal like that and it's incentivized, I think that's something that can trickle down in all areas of your departments.
I have to agree, most companies that have a type of mentorship program embedded into it tend to have better employee retention.
And in my organization, we provide carpentry apprenticeship program. And so I've been a carpenter all my life. And I'm a contractor, but we provide apprenticeships. So our apprentices that come out, they'll learn how to cultivate these different skill sets. There's a lot of philosophical ideas mixed in there with mental conditioning. So definitely these folks are getting prepared to become journeyman carpenters and maybe one day become a contractor. So I put all that in their funnel to look forward to. And it really motivates me to give them something to work with.
It's funny that you bring up mentorship or apprenticeship, because one of the things that we discuss on the Better Business Bureau side is a lot of businesses will close down because they're retiring, the owner's retiring. Well, instead of closing down the business, if they had an apprentice to take over the business, then they can continue that sort of legacy, sell the business aspect of it, and then be able to maintain that reputation through the Better Business Bureau. Because they learned the trade through the owner themselves, and now they're able to continue doing that and providing that service.
I think the businesses, it depends on, the size of the business and if it's going to be an internal mentorship program or doing, external mentorship. And one of the things that helps is, again, it's usually a bigger organization. They give you so much mentorship hours, PTO hours, community hours, whatever you want to do it so that a professional can do that, during working hours instead of having to do it on top of that. And the way to get people to be mentors in an organization, it always comes down from the leadership. The leadership has to show a commitment and say, we believe in this program.
All right. What role does mentorship play in bridging generational gaps and fostering mutual learning between the youth and experienced professionals?
Well, in technology, it seems that a lot of your careers disappear because, it's gone. You go 30 years developing something, you think you are getting ready to go to the next new thing when you're at the end of the old thing. You never quite know. We've lost our sense of history, our sense of what it took to get to where we are in technology and business, and just about all aspects. And so properly, if leadership stuff, I think that it would bridge those generations, not just giving the history, but absorbing the new way or the new culture or the new way of thinking, and to be able to integrate that back into what you're doing now. That's the way you progress.
That's a great comment, because with having apprentices, I'm 43. So when I started carpentry in high school, it was almost a different way. And so as people socially evolving and changing, everyone is more desiring to evolve a different space. My focus when I was a teenager was just to work. People was happy just to have a job at that time. But people look down almost on being employed at this point. So I have to evolve my thinking and really set goals and goalposts. Hey, this is what you can do. These are the opportunities. So I'm talking to apprentices about the business industry. When I was an apprentice, I was just focused on using a hammer problem. So definitely socially and culturally, we are involved in dramatic things. And being able to foster those mutual learning ideas it gets tricky, it gets more challenging because generations, their belief systems, their desires are much different than a lot of us. We were much younger.
And I'd also say generationally, it's different. I'm sure my parents in that generation said the same thing when I started in the workforce, but the whole approach to working is different. And because of that, a lot of times there's a divide, in those generations. I think the mentorship would bridge that divide because it gives the two a reason to collaborate, where otherwise there wouldn't be, because I'm now doing something that's different or new. And this is, for lack of a better term, the old way of doing it. And that seems to be like a lot of the focus, and at least in my experience these days, new hires coming in, especially right out of college and so forth. It's a lot of energy and enthusiasm in their circle. But when it's time to collaborate with those that have, been in a position or in that role for a while, or leadership, kind of lacks a little bit.
So it's funny that you guys say that. I grew up in the restaurant business. My dad owned restaurants. And I'll never forget, I started working for my dad when I was 13. And I'll never forget, he told me, he's like, if you're going to run the restaurant one day, you know how to, you need to know how to do every single role in this restaurant. Because your cook's gonna leave one day and you're gonna have to go back in the kitchen and you're gonna have to run it for who knows how long. You're gonna have to wipe down tables and clean up dishes and make sure that you're caught up on a Saturday night or take an order, seat somebody, take a reservation, make a phone call. You need to know how to do those things if you're gonna be the top guy, because you can't be telling people what to do and not be knowing how to do it. Right?
So your father was slacking. My great grandfather had me in his business at 8 years old.
I think it was a girl. My brother started earlier.
Yeah.
My brother started earlier, but here's how my brother's like my dad. He works for Perry's Steakhouse. And he gets in there and he starts dishwasher and he's like, hey, I think I can do, you know, the line cook. So he starts being a line cook. And then a few weeks later, he's like, I kind of want to try the butchering. So he does the butchering and now he's a broiler. And I looked at him the other day and I said, I know what you're doing. And he's like, what? I said, you're trying to run that kitchen one day. And he was like, yeah.
But I think it's good on the generations. I did a lot of career coaching for many years, for 12, 13 years. And I had a lot of young, very early 20-something-year-old clients. It's their first job. And I love meeting with them because I'm a lot older, 43, and they're 20 years old, but I would learn so much from them. And then going back to your perspective, I could give them a historical perspective of the business. And again, you come back and forth. It's a give and take. And I come home and I look and I go, have you ever heard of this? To her, and she's like, yeah, she always knows this stuff. And I'm like, I didn't. One of my clients told me about it. And so again, if you go into it with that open mind and say, I can learn from them too, that's how you develop the rapport and the trust.
I'll never forget, I said something one time and my brother walks up to me and he's like, bet. And I was like, bet what? And he was like, no, he's like, I'm agreeing with you. I said, I guess I'm old. All right. So I've kind of seeped into Barry's time, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce him and let him come up. Barry is our president and CEO. He's my boss, and I'll talk about him a little bit later. But he's going to talk about himself being a mentor and what it means to have mentorship and participate in that.
I actually have my own timer, so I'm not going to be your time.
Really, Barry? You have a timer?
Promise. Maybe I'll go over a little bit. You never know.
All right.
Look at this. I did not do this. So Eddie is my mentor when it comes to presentations, for sure. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. I believe there's a lot of groups out there. You can attend a lot of meetings. You could be at meetings all day long and produce nothing for yourself if you go to too many meetings. So these conversations are about all of us learning together, hearing stuff from everybody instead of having a bunch of talking heads. And if you don't understand talking heads, see me later, probably a generational topic or a title. And I've grown up in that world, and I've attended so many great meetings and so many things that just wasted my time. And I just wanted to jump up and say, you're 100% wrong what you're telling us. That's why we have the conversation. So I just listen as an expert to what you all feel. So I should not contradict. If I was smart and listened well, I should not try to contradict anybody that's answered any of the questions that Evie's put together. That's the thought process. So the mentorship is something that I was in the car business from 83 to 2020. And I always talk to salespeople, mechanics, technicians, car doctors, body shop technicians, parts department, clerical people about mentorship. And you should see some of the times, and I've spoke to thousands of employees, the eyes, they're just dead. There's just nothing going on. And then you look around and you get somebody that's getting what I'm saying about mentorship. Because they've either had one, they are one, or they at least understand the concept of it. So when you talk to people, car salespeople, car salesmen, when I started in the business, it was a man's world. They were broken people. The car business hired people that were broken. They were either fired, they embezzled, they did some drugs, alcohol, time, divorced a couple times, amazing amount of families that they don't pay anything for, garnishments arriving at our doorstep every single day of a car dealership, starting in '83. And that's the kind of business it was. But the reason people were failing and it came to the car business is because you can make money fast. It was commission driven. So if you worked harder, nobody's going to tell you you're going to make X amount of dollars an hour. But if you came into that dealership world and thought it was about churning and burning, causing harm to others, and that's the reputation of the industry for decades, you failed. You failed quickly, the dealership failed, and they went out of business or sold to somebody else. So you needed to get ways, as a general manager, I needed to coach people, because the minute I hired these people that were on the balls of their, when I knew their story in the interview, how broken they were, I was responsible for them, in my opinion. So I led in the way that I had to be the poster child of how to do it right, and to show them you can get your life back on track. And somebody said victim, I use the word victimization, somebody used victim, but you're not a victim. Nobody's a victim. We are, in our shoes, the way we want to put them on and the way we want to live. So if you want to be a mentor and you want to be a mentoree, one or the other, you want to lead people to get to a better life. And that can be done. So that's why I asked Olga to repeat what she said this morning twice, because that's pretty powerful. And I 100% agree. I was born here. I was here and I'm 63 years old, and I've made my money here. I've had loss here. I've made a lot of bad decisions. I've had a lot of failures, but I've never hurt anybody. And I learned that from somebody that was my mentor. And I have about 5 mentors in my life. Somebody taught me, and I'll tell you the one thing that Jim taught me. He owned a bar in the Jersey Shore, and I worked there. And we would have a line of 200-300 people waiting to get into this bar. It's 100 degrees outside. I mean, and you go inside, it's probably 110. There's no air conditioning. I mean, the air conditioning couldn't keep up with it. And that's just the way the summer ran. And one day Jim came out to me and said, give everybody water. I said, I don't want to give all these people water. They might not even wait in line. You just give them water. My place. So I was 21, 22 years old. I learned. Then he said one day, go out and buy them all pizza. I said, Jim, you're out of your mind. What are you doing? This guy's a multimillionaire and I'm broke. And I'm telling him what to do. But I stood back and I listened to what he said. And boy, did I learn a lot. Imagine that, buying pizza for literally 150, 200, 300 people in line, just giving people slices of pizza to make them obligated to go to our club and drop money that he was going to then make money on. So it was very smart. And it's the way he felt about people. So then I went in the car business, and that helped me for decades do the right thing. So that's one mentorship from Jim, and he's now deceased, but I always will remember that story and I share it. So when I talk to the salespeople or has anybody known a car mechanic? Has anybody been a car mechanic? They don't talk too much. They talk to themselves. They'll tell you what it is. That's why car mechanics are behind the wall, and service advisors are the face of the dealership or the shop, because the tech does not want to talk to you. They want to just fix it. They have no regard. Well, imagine that wall being broken down, and that's what I had to work on. So I had to be a mentor to these people that had no respect, because I don't even know today how a car runs. I have not a clue. I don't need to. I just need to know the people business. But if I could show them that I could walk in their shoes just a little bit and understand that I was trying to help them get better, they understood it and started to trust me. So trust goes with being a mentor, if you don't realize that. So now what do? This is the part I don't know how to do. This is very important to learn. It's just an arrow?
Just an arrow.
All right, I can do it. That one, beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, are we recording this?
Yes.
So we all know this is recorded. This will be up online, LinkedIn, and Facebook, wherever else we post it. So we're trying to share these messages with as many people as we can. So mentorship, why does mentorship matter? And how it helps in overall community development? Well, our communities are broken in certain ways. We're all about the money and the laws and the rules, and we're just going through the day-to-day, and we're not taking time to look at the people, okay? There was just something I just heard on the radio today. I guess the governor tried to get $50 million out of the budget and not take it away from schools, but to give it to the poorer section of Virginia and let kids go to private schools or whatever, give them vouchers and let them get out of the environment they're in. Game changer. It is common sense. I mean, if it's not working where they're at and you're going to give them money in a public system to go somewhere else and give them a chance to succeed, it seems to me to be common sense. But believe it or not, in the world of politics, one side says yes, the other side says not a good idea. And that goes on for hundreds of years all around the world. So we're not unique to the political world. But again, mentorship can help us get over these obstacles, these roadblocks, if you will. And why mentorship matters is because you're dealing with families, you're dealing with people. You'll hear me over and over again at Ignite for the next X amount of years that I'll be here, talk about family, because family is the key. And I learned that from C.T. Woody, who was a sheriff, a great cop in Richmond City, and then sheriff of Richmond for 12 years. And I used to go to and listen to him speak to the inmates in the real life program. And every single time he would talk to these group of people, men and women, and say, it's all about family. When you get out of here, you figure out how to get your family back. Now think about some of these families. I mean, you're talking to thieves, drugs, some hardcore criminals. Their families are broken in a lot of ways, right? They don't even know where their families are. But if they could get out and try to rebuild whatever family they could, is what his point was. Okay, so if I'm a father and I'm a dad, go out and do the right thing. And that's what his words were over and over and over again, because you never know who you're going to touch. And the inmates, when they leave and they get back on the street and they get their life back together, they don't go back in. You did your job as a sheriff. You did your job as a leader, as a mentor. And that's the way he always did it. And so when I used to hear him talk about family, I just copy what he said, because he had a lot more wisdom than I ever could. All right, so I just share that with you. The power of mentorship, underserved populations. Not even sure what underserved means anymore. What does the poster child look for underserved? Is it white, black, male, female, Asian, Hispanic? What is the poster child for underserved? Is it an income of a family making under $20,000? Or government programs paying you $25,000? Is it people making $100,000? Is it people making $500,000? Because the money has nothing to do with underserved. If you look at it as a family and human beings, the money doesn't fix anything. There's dysfunction A to Z all across because we're human beings. And you got to realize that. So when mentors get in and work with somebody, doesn't have to just be little Johnny who happens to be white growing up in a black neighborhood, or vice versa. And today, you know, Evie and I had on our podcast, we had Dr. Wally Smith, and he's world-renowned sickle cell doctor right here at VCU. And he had a great point, and listening to him, what's happening in our culture all around the world right now, black, white, Hispanic, we're all meeting others and we're blending cultures together. So sickle cell doesn't just go after black folks that have this trait, or European folks, maybe from Italy or Greece, that have the trait. If they marry and they have children, you can then have the sickle cell. Well, nobody's talking about that, right? So is that an underserved population someday? Could be, because they're not going to be thinking they might have that trait, which they need to get tested for. Because the pain of that, and he went through that with us, the pain is just incredibly painful if you have sickle cell. It is something that is just, I wouldn't want it to happen to anybody, right? But it does daily. So underserved population, I think we got to really dissect in our minds when we use this politically correct term or this DEI term, or just the way we speak. What does underserved mean? Because every one of us, if I put you in that little room and videotaped you, you'd all give me a different picture of that word and who you perceive in front of you. So when I used to talk to the inmates in Richmond City, 60% black, 40% white, And it could be male and female. We had separate groups. And you could see the victimization of some of these guys sitting on this side of the room versus that side, maybe. And you could see that they were angry. And then here's a white guy telling them how to go out and get a job someday, and how to do a resume, and how to come see me because I might hire them. And I was trying to get other employers in the town of this, Richmond area to hire, to at least interview somebody that's been incarcerated and now in recovery and looking to get out. And I would say to them, don't ever judge, right? I was trying to be a mentor, but trying to talk straight also. Don't judge me because you think I'm white and I grew up with a silver spoon in my mouth. We didn't have a spoon. I had holes in my shoes. We didn't have electric. I didn't have water. And I didn't have this, and this. And they look at it, some of them, and I said, did you have water? Did you? Well, yeah, of course I did. Okay, so just because you're sitting there and I didn't get caught doing bad things and I should be in there, why did God save me? I don't know. C.T. Woody would tell you the same thing. C.T. Woody would tell you I should have been in jail, but it was either jail back in the 66, 67 or go to Vietnam. He chose Vietnam. Isn't it amazing, right? He took the military route and saved himself. And then he becomes a cop and a sheriff and a world-class leader, in my opinion. So the people sitting in a room are going to judge. So when you're going to be a mentor, you do it silently. You don't just put a button and say, I'm available to be a mentor. So how do you pick a mentor? It's silent, it's personal. I've had 5 mentors, like I said, and my father was one of them. Do you think I ever told my father he was my mentor? Nope, not until the day he died. Never told him. Do I wish I told him? Of course I do. But you don't have that conversation all the time. So mentors are private sometimes. Sometimes you can identify it. Sometimes you hear it. Sometimes you see it. Sometimes I could make a point if I'm going to be a leader and a mentor, because it's 2 different things. A leader is accountable to the bottom line of a company financially. When you're a leader of a company, you are responsible for the company to thrive. And that means your people have to thrive. So you attract, satisfy, retain, attract the very best, satisfy them in every way possible by having a good company once they're on your side. And then you got to retain them because there's a big world out there and people will take people all the time, right? They'll hire and bring you over. So if I could be at least a quiet mentor or give that sense that I want to help, maybe that helps me retain just one great person. Right. And another off they leave because they move on and it's life. But at least I did whatever I could do and give that little magic dust of whatever I can leave with somebody. And I is not me. I is all of you. When you're a mentor, when you can give that little magic dust that somebody remembers something, right? It's a big deal. Got a guy, Bud, sitting behind us here. He's in the radio industry now and the electronic world for 50 plus years. He owns Virginia Breeze, what Virginia Breeze is, and before you all leave, you're going to download it. We're not going to do it now, not on my time. Maybe we'll do it at every session. But we'll download the app, and you'll be able to hear what a man and a group of people have done. It's a great story right here in Richmond that bring their talents and are giving us something. They'll be gone, and the Virginia Breeze will keep going, giving us a history of music and just great listening platform for free, and the Better Business Bureau will control all the marketing spots. So accredited businesses will be marketing, Virginia Credit Union, the home improvement business will be marketing spot on, will be marketing to people listening to that station. Mentorship, leadership, I don't know if it's called mentorship, but I think we can give the words and help people hear what we want to share and teach. So offering guidance and sharing knowledge, obviously building confidence, developing skills, opening doors to educational employment opportunities. I think, Dave, you said something about the county and their programs and their mentorship. So raise your hand if you've ever heard of WBL, work-based learning. How 100% of us don't know what that is crazy. Because work-based learning is in all of our schools in the whole Commonwealth of Virginia. Internships from 6th grade to 12th grade, our kids start to learn what they're gonna go into. Companies raise their hand and say, we wanna put the kids when they're 11th and 12th grade into our place of work. And you have interns right there at the high school level. So like Cristo Ray, and I don't want to steal your thunder, I think you're gonna talk about it, but if you don't know the Cristo Ray story, it's an incredible story. It really truly is. It's right here. It's all over the country, but it's right here in Richmond. And I think it's 9 years old now, 10 years old. Amazing program, amazing. So you go underserved. Yeah, I would say those are underserved kids that they're educating there and going to college at a huge rate and succeeding and having jobs when they get out. It's amazing. So WBL, work-based learning, throw a monkey wrench into it. Who do you call for mental health crisis? What is it? 988. Everybody know that? Has nothing to do with mentorship or leadership. It's just something I will always bring up because now we know because of conversations like this. Tell everybody mental health 988 in the state of Virginia. It's free. Mental health crisis suicide hotline 988. So put it everywhere on all your Facebook pages, post it, everything. And doing good on the slides, Evan? All right, passing the test so far. Effective mentorship show. So again, I'm not going step by step on this presentation. This was an outline, and I hate doing these actually, but it was good for me to do this. I know, thank God. And it's a good thing because I stay a little more focused in my time. Sabrina, I'm almost there. Give myself 20 minutes. I'm at 19 and I'm going to take probably 3 more. So one-on-one mentorship, group mentorship, peer mentorship, best practices. And then you all should be thinking about, are you a mentor? Who are your mentors? And then what makes a great mentor? Is that the last slide, I believe? Yeah. Self-confidence, resilience. There you go. So
One more.
we got after this, but we can donate. All right, I passed it. Sure.
Not to us.
Oh, not to me. I take donations, cash only.
Donate to program.
Right. So put yourself out there, decide what mentor is, find your mentor, ask that person somewhere in your life. If it's 20 years ago, if somebody helped you, some of you are not old enough for 20-year mentors yet, but you will be. But go back to somebody and say, you were my mentor. I never told you, Dave, but I wanted you to know. And I want you to know that I thought you were a mentor to me, but why did you realize that? Why did you take me on as a project? I was a mess. When you took me on, I was a train wreck, right? And you helped me. Yeah, we're mental health, right? I mean, we go on and on. We could go off of 20 different rails here, but mental health. And the name of your organization?
Poplar Springs.
Got it? Okay, so that local place and for mental health and so many tools out there. So a great mentor would be right there and to learn to push people that way if you need help. But support, I would absolutely with Ignite. Ignite is a mentorship program. Ignite sparked by BBB is and we just came up with that yesterday, right? We just identified that we are a mentorship program. That's one of the things we do. We charge $8 because somebody told us we got to charge money for these things. I'm not sure why, but we're doing it. You'll get pizza at 11 o'clock, just so you know. We have corporate sponsors, Virginia Credit Union and Quality Service Moving. And those are 2 great sponsors so far. But the things that we can do, we'd like you to follow us on our Facebook and all that. But I'm going to go rapid fire. So why be a mentor? You got to know what's in it for me. That's how we think. What's in it for you? You're going to, when I'm gone, if I was ever a mentor just to one person, I hope it was my daughter. But if I leave one thing, it's what I leave behind. And being a mentor is what you leave behind. You won't even, I'll never know how many people I touched. You know how I grade myself? I go back to the car business. Does anybody buy a car and then they go back and the car salesperson is gone? Does that ever happen? Transient, right? I'm so done. You go to Haley right now, Buick GMC. I hired almost every one of those 60, 70 people. And guess what? I was there yesterday, I had a flat tire. And guess what? Majority of them, like 80% are still there. And I've been gone since 2018. Not bad. Now, they're never gonna give, I can't go to the guy who replaced me and say, this is all because of me. You know, they hated you, Barry. You were rough on them, you trained them. I instilled something in them for them to succeed and be their best every day. So that's how I evaluate myself, if it worked. The image, you are always being looked at. I feel like an unmade bed today. I just moved. I don't know where the ironing board is. We just got a new washer and dryer. I haven't been allowed to touch it yet, my wife said. I'm a train wreck right this minute, and I feel it. I don't even know where my shoe shine kit is, but it's in that house somewhere. But it's the image, your behavior is how you behave. Everyone's watching. I used to drink a lot. I used to be on the street partying like a rock star, like a fraternity kid until I was about to 2014. And 10 years ago, God just, I don't know what happened. I just stopped drinking. Just one day, I just stopped. Probably the best thing I ever did. I said to my wife the other day, we're unpacking all the liquor because I got a lot of liquor and I could throw a great party. And I said, you know, I'm starting to want to take a drink. She goes, you're better off. I said, wow. She goes, you've been a lot better the last 10 years with your temperament and your bad days the next day, right? And I say, okay, I get it. And I appreciate that. So you got to walk in the shoes. If you're a mentor, you've got to walk in Rob's shoes. If I'm his mentor, if he's my mentor, he's got to know what I'm going through, where I've come from. How do you evaluate if you're a good mentor? What is the age you have to be a mentor? Can I be a mentor to somebody at 63? Absolutely. Does a person have to be 80? No, it could be a 22-year-old. It all depends on that other person who I'm meeting. You're not going to get a pat on the back. You're not going to get, hey, that a boy, that a girl. That's not why you do it. It's not always politically correct, but you got to say things directly to people. You can't let them become a victim. I'm going to keep using that word, right? You can't allow people to become a victim of society because society, somebody explained it to me about 15 years ago. They go, you do not understand the economy by keeping people at this level and this level. It's got nothing to do with color. It appears to be, that's the mystique of this whole thing, but it's a game. It's something that was thought up here 30, 40, 50 years ago. And it's a terrible thing that keeps going on. So you might not always say things that are politically correct. Where can it happen in mentorships? Your church, your schools, family, friends, nonprofits, and companies. The BBB brand, we stand for trust, respect, honesty, and integrity. Goes without saying. Ignite, again, is leading the mentorship messaging. There's no income in it to be a mentor. Unless you're a leader of a company and those people make you money and it falls to the bottom line, well, then it was a good business decision too, being a mentor. Victim mentality, you can have, and then desire to learn on your own. The last thing I'll tell you is in 1983, I started selling cars, not my dream in college. And they gave me a new car, which our family never owned a new car. So I thought that was pretty cool, but it was a demo. And in 1984, I knew I was going to be leaving because I didn't go to school for this. I didn't live for this. And the general manager was very smart. Tommy was very, very smart, put his hooks into me. Said, I'm going to teach you how to do finance and insurance, F&I. You're going to be that guy you go to after you buy the car, and you're going to sell all the other products and get the loan arranged. You're a smart guy. Okay. So I went in there, but he goes, I'm not going to pay you to do that. And you can't do it while you're on the sales floor. You got to do it on your off time. So I did that on my off time. Today, everybody would say, well, how am I getting paid? I'm not doing that unless I'm getting paid. Well, it was the best thing I ever did. I went from making $33,000 the first year. 1983 was pretty good money. My dad was probably making 20 and he was unemployed a lot. The next year I made about 55,000 and I went to 104,000 because I got into F&I. That was pretty good money back then. How did I do it? I did it on my days off and then they fired somebody. And so they fired this guy and I stepped right in and took the job at 23 years old. So you never know what you're going to step into. You take the leap of faith. And with that, thank you for letting me go over. Thank you.
Ignite, sparked by BBB, where conversations are taking place to change the future.